Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Gray here. Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, I want to talk about something a little bit different of how kind of the wealthy, how the successful, how the ultra rich, maybe not ultra rich, maybe like between $1 and $10 million, how they actually kind of break up their check, how they take their money and they divide it up into actual steps and processes to actually become rich and successful and all that. So most adults in America today, typically in my generation, but this is affecting everybody, live paycheck to paycheck. So most of this video is going to be focused on 18 to 25 year olds because that's where I'm at, that's where this channel focuses. But realistically, this can be applied to anyone. If you're 30, 40, wherever it is, wherever you're starting, this can actually be applicable to you. It's just going to look a little bit different. Realistically, if you're starting in your 30s or 40s, your outcome will probably be lower in terms of how much you can have at the end because you started later, and there's no shame in that. It's just a reason to get started as soon as humanly possible. So I want to say you can do it. There is a chance and you can do it differently, but it takes discipline. It's hard. Being wealthy is hard. Managing and accumulating money is difficult, but it's worth it. There is a skill to it, and there's 4 mindset shifts that I think can really set you apart by 30. And so if you're in this kind of younger age bracket, I think actually listening to this video and actually taking some notes on what we can do to build up our net worth over the next few years can set you apart in a way that instead of getting, to your 40s, your late 30s, early 40s, and having to catch up, paying off student loans, paying off high interest credit cards, having to invest way more than 25 or 30%, you can actually start ahead of the curve and build that up where it's working for you because you have an abundance of time right now. If you're 18 to 25, your time is so valuable. It is said that $1 invested in your 20s can turn into about $88. And if you have an employer match, that's looking more like 176. That's the actual math, how it adds up. And so I want to go to point number 1, which is grow the gap. More in, less out. Or in business terms, we want to raise the top line while cutting the bottom line. And so there is an extremist point of view where you have this whole frugal living where I'm not saying frugal living is the extremist, but what I'm saying is, if you're making $100,000 and you're living off of 10, while impressive as that is, what is your quality of life? But specifically, if that's what you're going to do, there's 2 ways you can focus on getting wealthy. You can make more money, but you also have to spend less. Because if I make $100,000 but I spend $90,000, I have the same amount left over as somebody who makes $40,000 and spends $30,000. We both have $10K left over. We just spent different amounts. And so there's a lot of factors that go into this. Cost of living, where you're living, how much you're spending. Are you single? Are you married? Are you dating? Do you have 1 kid? Do you have 10? A lot of things can factor. Do you have a dog? A lot of things can factor into this. But if you can raise the top line by increasing your income, mine's been pretty insane over the past few years, but if you can do incremental changes, if you can over time increase it by 3 to 10% a year, another great thing is switching jobs. As sad as it is, in today's world, sticking at one place for 20 years is just not possible anymore. You need to be job hopping. I don't mean every 10 minutes, but I do mean every 5 years, 3 years, you can be switching jobs to get a 20, sometimes 30% pay increase right off the bat. And so that's how, first we want to raise that top line, that income, that salary that you're bringing in, whether it's $12 an hour, $20, or even $200. We want to figure out how can we increase that top line. Simultaneously, though, again, as I said, if you're making $100,000 but you're spending 90, you're only netting 10. So how can we cut that bottom line? Maybe that means getting a crappier place to live, spending less on rent, which is typically people's biggest thing. For me personally, food has been a big problem. I love to eat. And so this month we're doing a no-spend month on eating out. It is currently the 13th of May, and we've made it 13 days with absolutely zero eating out. And I already feel like I got a raise because instead of spending literal thousands of dollars a month on food, we're able to invest that and save that and just spend it in other areas. And so overall, we're keeping the top line the same. We focused on raising that for so long, but now we're in a position where that bottom line is going down and down, and the margin is getting increased. And so on top of that, you can also pay off debt payments. I know for a lot of people, hopefully not at 18 to 25, besides maybe like student loans, hopefully you're not too into credit cards or anything like that just yet. But if you can keep your debt down, you can get rid of your debt, and you don't have these minimum monthly payments. Even if you own a car, if you can get rid of that minimum monthly payment, then you're going to free up a lot of cash to where you're creating more margin in your life. And you're going to hear people that talk about how difficult it is, how hard it is for them to just buy and make payments. If you have no payments, your life becomes pretty simplified. If $4,000 comes in and your rent is $1,250, your groceries are $400, blah blah blah, you can actually have a number where, if you're bringing in $5K a month but you need $3,000 to live, you got $2,000 worth of margin, as opposed to $500 going to a car, $200 going to a credit card, $150 going to student loans. There's an actual margin for you. And so that's what I'm saying when I say more in, less out. Let's raise that top line as much as we can get within reason and legally, and then less out. And then once you actually have that money, let's save and invest early. So a beautiful thing about being our age is the fact that we actually have the time to invest. So I'm talking Roth IRAs, taxable accounts, and compound interest. Actually putting that money to work. If you can get a job in your early 20s that has a 401k with an actual employer match, you could be set up, even if it's just a few thousand, that can grow exponentially because you are so young. So while I'm not exactly saying go get a job at a big corporation, there can be perks to starting your own business, buying a business, or even just working at kind of a lower, like mom and pop kind of place. There are some benefits as well at working at these bigger companies where you can get the benefit of tax or before tax accounts of a 401k or a Roth 401k. And then as well, maxing out your Roth IRA. So for me specifically, I maxed out last year's. I'm on track to max out this year's. And if you can really focus on maxing that out, the 18 to 25 year range, that 7 years, is crucial. It can cost you literal millions. And realistically, all you're putting in is about 50K. Realistically, over those first few years, even if you can't max it out, maybe your goal is 3,500 in a year because you're still in school, you're still living at home, your job hasn't gotten to where you need it to be. If you take advantage of that margin that you're building, you keep cash on hand, but more importantly, you're investing for the future. You're not going to have to be 30 going back and making up and giving up time with your kids or your family or travel, because you already put in the work. You already put it into your future. And that brings me to point number 2. Don't buy status. There's no point in buying designer clothes or shoes or all these expensive vibes. I've seen way too many people in my life. They will finance cars they can't afford. They'll buy clothes that they don't need. They'll wear shoes they can't afford. And when you start looking at it, and specifically in the way that you're making money, if you're paid by the hour, or you break up how much money you make by the hours that you work, then you can start looking at things of, okay, if you make $20 an hour, if you look at a pair of shoes that's $100, that's 5 hours of your life before tax. And you can kind of notice that a lot of the things that you're buying are actually way more expensive than you realize. And so in my personal opinion, you don't need to fall for this lifestyle inflation. It's what actually keeps you broke. Actually focusing on buying status and proving to everyone around you that you're doing okay, that you're making money. I want to be the weird one. It can be lonely. It can be difficult. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on in this video. But specifically, if you can focus on actually building a nest egg that will just, the law of accumulation, it's just going to start compounding and building into something you never thought possible because you put in the work early on. 18 to 25, 7 years of your overall life. It might be hard. It is hard. But at the end of the day, with that money set aside, you can live a much different life from your parents, from your friends, from everyone around you. And you didn't even have to make that much money. And so I'll talk about this as well later on in the video, but I don't want you to take a shortcut to get here. It's okay to be a business or a job or work your way up, but focus on ownership and freedom and not actually looking successful. No one cares if you look successful. I want you to actually be successful and have the ownership and freedom in your life to buy your time back. And so, as I said, I wanted to talk about this. Real wealth takes time. There's no shortcuts. There's no get rich quick thing. It is biblical that fast money goes away. If you build wealth quickly, it is just going to leave just as quick. And realistically, we want to look at wealth as a long-term play. Realistically as well, that's half the fun. At least for me, that is half the fun, is the fact that I can build something consistently over my life, and I can end up having something as I need it. it would not be fun if somebody gave me $1,000,000. I mean, it would. If Mr. Beast is watching this, I would love $1,000,000. But it would take the fun out of it. The fact that I didn't build up to it, I didn't buy a business and work my way into it, I didn't start at a job and build my income up. Part of the fun of life is the suffering of it. And so I don't want to go to the extreme and say you need to be suffering constantly or for 10 or 20 years. But I do want to say that if it came easy, it would not be loved. You can't be grateful for something that was just handed to you, at least with the same veracity that you would be if you earned it. And so skip the flashy promises. There's no secret formula. I want you to look at things that work. And I mean genuinely work, not some Grant Cardone seminar of 10x, whatever that is. I want you to focus on stocks, equities, real estate, even though I'm not a huge fan. I want you to look at actual things that have been proven over history to build up. And so investing in businesses, creating value in the economy, and more importantly, putting money aside. Buying a Lamborghini and renting it out to your friends will not make you rich. It might make you a few dollars, but it's not an empire. I want to look at things where I can go, okay, look, if I put $100 in, I want my dollars to go out and make some friends with other dollars and bring more back to me. And so there's no get rich quick. You're going to pay a little bit of stupid tax, but on top of that, go learn from books, mentors, people you know that you would trade places with. Look at proven paths. For me, I really like the S&P 500. It has been around over 100 years at this point, and it is a proven formula for building wealth. And so while I would caution everybody not to put all their eggs in one basket, I would say look at the things that are working. If somebody is super hyper successful in real estate and everyone around you, is making millions in real estate, or building up their different areas, consider that. Let's research that. If you feel, I want you to understand what you're investing in, but if you feel that's the way to go for it. But new flashy crypto, new flashy, all these things, I don't want to condemn it because I don't know all the little different stuff about crypto or courses or all that. I don't want to point at somebody's course and say absolutely not, because there can be value in learning. But there's no shortcut to this. So if somebody's promising you that you're going to make $1,000,000 in your first 3 years here, they're lying to you or they're telling the truth, and that's even scarier. And so, you've got to take some risk, but at the same time, be intelligent about it. That's really the end of this whole portion of the video. And then to my first point, being broke is difficult, and being disciplined and wealthy can be very difficult. So being broke at 30 is hard. Being disciplined now is hard. But one leads to options, and the other leads to stress. And so if you end up in your mid-30s, again, I'm not shaming anyone that's in their 30s, but if you end up in that spot, you can get out of it. I think there's a way out, a future there. But more specifically, if you're in that spot, if you're not in that spot yet, I don't want you to end up there. I want you to make the sacrifices now. Well, it's probably the easiest. You probably don't have anyone depending on you. You probably don't have a lot of people asking you for money. You probably don't have a lot of responsibilities. You probably have a lot of time. So let's take advantage of that. Let's put that into the market to work for us. And let's choose the long game. It is said in my generation, and I've said this before, that's a future me's problem. I've said that before, and it hurts me to think about now. But why can't your future self thank you? Why does it have to be push it onto them, make them do it? When them is you, you're going to end up doing it eventually. Let's go ahead and do it now, and you don't have to worry about it. Sadly, that is the most adult thing you can do. And then 5, your network, your shortcut. Most people don't grow alone. You can. I think you can build wealth alone. A lot of people have, but it's going to be difficult. And I'd rather do difficult things with people like me, people I care about, and the people that I'm going to cheer them on, and they're going to cheer me on. And so grow better with people around you. And also, if you find success in your life, I don't want you to go shout it from the rooftops. I don't really care to do that. But I would say if you do find success, I would go tell the people close to you so they can share in the success with you. There's no point, in my opinion, to being rich if you're just going to hoard all of it, and if you're going to hoard the way you got it. If you're going to hide that from everybody, there's no point. So surround yourself with friends who talk about money, goals, growth, God, and not just parties and drama and relationships and all the other wacky stuff about life. If you're around people that are just constantly drinking, smoking, all this stuff, I don't care. Do you want to live their life? Is this a life you want to live forever? And then just think about it. And online and offline, build a circle that challenges you and inspires you. I want to get to the point where I have people coming back to me, in 10, 20, 30, 40 years that say thank you, because they built a life because I encouraged them to do that. I want to be that person that is a catalyst to say, no, you need to focus on retirement. I don't want to be a finance bro. I want to be somebody that's saying, go build a better future for yourself tomorrow. And most of us didn't come for money, but that doesn't mean we can't build it. It's slow, it's hard, but it's real. And we're the first generation with the internet, with free info and investing apps and budgeting apps in our pocket. There's no excuses. There's just action. So go out there if you're 18 to 25. Let's get that bag clean. I'm never saying that again. Let's go out there. Let's look at, you don't need to be a millionaire next year, but how can you be 1% better than yesterday every single day? And that's how you will win. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you guys have enjoyed, drop a like and comment down below what I should talk about next. And I'll see you on the next one. Adios.